told Norway's prime minister
Are you from Norway?
No.
You look like you would be from Norway. But she looks like she's from Norway. Go ahead.
You told Norway's prime minister that you not winning the Nobel Peace Prize made you feel less obligated to think purely of peace.
Well, I lost a lot of respect for Norway. And I believe very strongly that Norway controls the Nobel Prize. But you have to understand, I settled 8 wars. I've had every one of those wars, every participant wrote, I didn't ask him to do it. They sent in strong they make recommendations for that. But I settled 8 wars. No president's probably ever settled 1 war. I don't know, think of it. I did 8. The reason I do it is because it's easy for me to do. And I didn't do it for a Nobel Prize. I did it because I'm saving a lot of lives. I'm trying to settle the final one. I'm trying to do Russia-Ukraine. And when Russia's ready, Ukraine's not. When Ukraine's ready, Russia's not. But they're losing 25,000 people a month on average. And I'm trying to get that one done. But no, I feel that Norway has tremendous control over who gets the Nobel Prize, despite what they say.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
All right, let's talk about what we just watched, because the Senate hearing raised some big questions that go far beyond the headlines and sound bites. The hearing centered on U.S. national security, foreign policy priorities, and America's role on the global stage, particularly as it relates to NATO, emerging security threats in the Arctic, and the broader direction of U.S. leadership under renewed Trump-era arguments. Lawmakers questioned administration officials and experts about strategic interests, military commitments, and how far the United States should go in protecting what it sees as vital security assets. Before we get into it, if you appreciate calm, fact-driven political analysis without the shouting, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps 45th Perspective grow. And if you want to support independent analysis like this, you can join us on Patreon at patreon.com/45th Perspective. Even small contributions make a big difference. Now, let's break down what actually happened in this hearing and why it matters. At its core, this hearing was about power, how the U.S. defines it, how it uses it, and where it draws the line. Several senators pressed witnesses on whether America's current foreign policy posture is sustainable, especially in a world where China, Russia, and regional conflicts are reshaping global alliances. Greenland came up repeatedly, not just as a territory, but as a symbol of Arctic dominance, missile defense, and access to future resources. Supporters of a more aggressive stance argued that the Arctic is no longer a distant, frozen frontier. They emphasized that melting ice has opened new shipping lanes and exposed valuable minerals, making the region a strategic hotspot. From this perspective, U.S. influence in Greenland is about staying ahead of adversaries who are already investing heavily in Arctic infrastructure. These senators framed the issue as preventative defense. Act now or pay a higher price later. On the other side, critics pushed back hard on this framing. They questioned whether expanding U.S. control or influence abroad truly enhances national security or simply overextends American power. Several senators raised concerns about international law, sovereignty, and the message such actions send to allies. They warned that treating strategic partners as assets rather than equals could weaken trust within NATO and beyond. One of the most striking moments in the hearing was when a senator asked whether national security has become a catch-all justification for policies that would otherwise face stronger resistance. That question lingered in the room because it touches on a deeper tension in American politics. How much authority the executive branch should have when invoking security concerns, and how closely Congress should scrutinize those claims. Healthcare and economic security were also woven into the discussion, even though this was primarily a foreign policy hearing. Some senators argued that true national security starts at home. They questioned how the U.S. can justify massive military investments while millions of Americans struggle with healthcare costs, housing, and wages. This line of questioning reframes security not just as protection from foreign threats, but as resilience within American society itself. That's where the hearing became especially relevant to everyday Americans. Because while Greenland and NATO might feel distant, the trade-offs discussed here are very real. Every dollar spent on defense strategy is a dollar not spent elsewhere. Supporters say those investments prevent catastrophic conflicts and protect long-term economic interests. Critics argue that the benefits are often abstract, while the costs are immediate and personal. Another key theme was leadership style. Some senators clearly aligned with the argument that strong, unilateral decision-making projects strength and Dieter's adversaries. Others countered that diplomacy, predictability, and respect for alliances are what actually keep the peace. This wasn't just a policy disagreement, it was a philosophical one about what kind of power America should wield. To be fair, both sides made valid points. It is true that the global landscape is changing rapidly, and ignoring strategic regions like the Arctic could leave the U.S. vulnerable. It's also true that allies expect consistency and respect, not surprise announcements or transactional relationships. Balancing those realities is incredibly difficult, and the hearing reflected that complexity. What the hearing did not fully resolve is how these decisions will be communicated to the public. Several senators criticized the lack of transparency around long-term goals, warning that without clear explanations, public trust erodes. When people don't understand why sacrifices are being made, skepticism grows, and that skepticism eventually turns into political backlash. For ordinary Americans, the takeaway here isn't about whether Greenland should or shouldn't matter. It's about how national priorities are set and who gets to decide. It's about whether security is defined narrowly through military strength or broadly through economic stability, healthcare access, and diplomatic credibility. As a viewer, I came away thinking this hearing was less about answers and more about exposure. It exposed the fault lines within Congress, the unresolved tensions in U.S. foreign policy, and the growing gap between elite strategic thinking and public concern. That doesn't mean the discussion wasn't valuable. It means it was incomplete. In a functioning democracy, hearings like this should spark wider conversations, not end them. They should invite citizens to ask hard questions about what kind of country they want to live in and how much power they're willing to give leaders in the name of security. And that's where you come in. These issues don't belong to one party or one administration. They affect everyone, regardless of political identity. Whether you lean towards strong military deterrence or diplomatic restraint, your perspective matters. So I'd love to hear from you. What did you think of the arguments made in this Senate hearing? Do you believe the current approach strengthens America, or do you think it risks overreach? Drop your thoughts in the comments, keep it respectful, and let's actually talk this through. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.